It's been 57 years since the last political assassination of this magnitude. In April of 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And in June of 1968, Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Charlie Kirk, whether you liked him or whether you didn't like him, he represented a large fraction of our nation. Of course, he preached his conservative ideals. He had a large following and he influenced a lot of people. And we have to ask ourselves, why does someone with a voice get assassinated? What motivates a person, a gunman, a group of people, whoever it may be? What motivates them to assassinate a person? Well, it's always for one reason, and that reason is they're scared of that person's voice. They're scared of that person's influence. They're scared of that person. And what we saw yesterday with the assassination of Charlie Kirk is somebody, whether it was one man, whether it was a group of people, influenced by a group of people, someone was scared of what Charlie Kirk represents. And besides for his conservative ideals, what Charlie Kirk really represented is debate, the spirit of debate. Nobody else in the conservative sphere gave people who disagreed with him the room to actually speak their mind and to have civil discourse. Charlie would go onto university campuses knowing he's in enemy territory, and he would set up shop and ask people who disagree with him just to explain why they disagree and to try to get to a common understanding on whose logic is more flawed, who has maybe the better opinion, and always walk away with a common understanding of at least, now I hear you out. Now I understand why you think the way you do, and I may not agree with it still, but at least now we have a common understanding that we're both humans who are just trying to have a discussion. And that was the spirit of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was the embodiment of debate. And whether you're conservative, whether you're liberal, no matter where you lie on the political spectrum, what happened yesterday should deeply, deeply haunt you, because what we saw was an attempt to destroy freedom of speech. The First Amendment of our Constitution, which allows the citizens of the United States to speak freely about what they believe in. You may not agree with it, but as long as you're not openly inciting violence, you're not actively trying to harm people, the law cannot stop you from speaking your mind. And this is what's so beautiful and so empowering and so free about the United States of America. This is what has allowed us to be propelled to the front of the world. This is the single most important quality of our society. And Charlie being shot in the throat in front of his wife and his two young children, in front of thousands and thousands of students who were just there to either engage in debate or just show support for what Charlie was out there doing, they had to be permanently traumatized because of someone's derangement. And on the internet, all across the internet, there's people celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. And this should deeply disturb anybody, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, because celebrating the murder of a person that hasn't done anything wrong. I don't agree with everything Charlie Kirk said, but you're not supposed to agree with 100% of what anyone says. And maybe you disagree with 100% of what Charlie Kirk said. But that doesn't mean he deserved to get shot in the throat and murdered at 31 years old. What I'm about to say is no secret. There is a lot of mental illness in our country. There are a lot of people that are not mentally well. They're not viewing violence for what it is. They're not viewing it with the gravity that it deserves. They aren't respecting life, and they aren't respecting the opinions of others. It's okay to disagree with people. This is part of being human. But when you try to silence the voice of your opposition, that's when societies collapse. If you look all throughout history, once voices were silenced, that's when dictatorship started. That's when political regimes that destroyed societies started. We saw it in Nazi Germany. We saw it in Stalin's Soviet Union. We've seen it all throughout history. You cannot silence the voice of your opposition. You need to have civil dialogue. You need to sit down with your fellow countrymen because we're all human. And again, unless you're actively inciting violence, Charlie Kirk may not have agreed with many liberal ideas. Maybe trans rights, gay rights, things like that. But he would never say, I think if you're trans or you're gay, you deserve to suffer. He would never say that. He would never say, if you see a trans or gay person, attack them, hurt them. That was never, ever what he did. He just said, I disagree, and I don't agree with it. But it's our right as citizens of the United States to speak our minds freely, and we need to protect this right with everything in our power, with everything in our body. We need to protect this sacred right, because once this goes away, if you believe that silencing the voice of your opposition is justified, you are part of the issue. This is not democracy. Democracy is one person believes this, another person believes this. They sit down, they talk about it, they try to come to a common understanding, and you try to find a resolution that satisfies both sides. You don't sit down at the table and say, I believe in this, and then the other guy shoots the other guy. And that's democracy. That's what people are celebrating on the internet. And again, it's not a large amount of people. On the internet, it's obviously inflated, it's exacerbated, it's made to seem more saturated than it truly is, because I'm sure it's a small percentage of people that are celebrating it. But there are people on the internet, way more people than I would ever imagine seeing, celebrating the death of a 31-year-old father, a husband, a guy that you may not agree with what he was saying, but he never wished harm on anybody. He only wanted to debate. He only wanted to come to a common understanding, and that is being American. That is the most important thing you can ever do as an American. Stand up for what you believe in, but never, ever turn to violence. And I leave you with this thought. Discussion is the tool of the civilized man. Violence is the tool of the barbaric man. Are you civilized or are you barbaric? Do you believe in civility? Do you believe in discussion? Or do you believe in harming the people that you don't agree with, silencing their voices, taking their lives? Is that really the solution that you believe in? It's beyond archaic, and it will destroy our society. I guarantee that.